Hey everyone, I am Katrina. This is another episode of Kicking Back with Kat podcast. Here I have with me Isaac Rodriguez. He is a wrestling promoter and filmmaker. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining. So, before I get into like the things that you do, what made you like a wrestling fan? What was that like match or the show that was like, oh my god, I have to kind of watch wrestling?
Shawn Michaels versus God. No, I'm kidding. I grew up listening to a lot of like music that was involved in the wrestling video games, and
Uh-huh.
I was fascinated since I was like 7 years old or like 6 years old. My grandfather was just flipping through the channels, and Monday Night Raw was on. Jericho was on the screen, and after that, really, I was just fascinated by the not just the aspect of the storytelling, but also just the competition and the sports feel of wrestling. I look back after discovering wrestling. I look back at a lot of ECW. ECW is like a really big uh, staple to what I do right now because of the aggression and just the freedom of speech it had. Really was very interesting. And I tell everyone this: wrestling is probably the best telenovela you could find right now, especially with times going through the pandemic. And
Yeah.
the story aspect, it's untouchable. There's nothing like it, and I'm very grateful to be a part of what's happening right now with not just what's on TV, but also the independence.
Cool, cool. I hear you mentioned Shawn Michaels. That was actually the guy that got me into wrestling too. And then like the Hardys like
Oh yeah.
solidified it where I was like, okay, so now I'm probably gonna be very obsessive about it. So I got like
I love
really
it.
crazy about it where I was like, I had to like recently apologize to my mom because I was like, okay, I was probably really annoying with the way I used to be about them, and you had to deal with that like every week with me, like oh my god, I need to watch SmackDown this week, or need you to record this for
Were
me if
you
I
a
miss
fan of Jeff
something.
more than Matt? Like, were you a Matt girl or were you a Jeff girl?
You know, it's funny. I started off as a Matt girl, a Matt Hardy girl. Like, I
Okay,
liked
I
Matt,
like that.
and then like Jeff did this thing where he flipped off something, and I was like, "Oh, okay, Jeff." And then after that, it was obsessively with Jeff Hardy. Like, I liked Matt for like I want to say a month or two, and then Jeff like was like doing some crazy shit, and I was like, "Oh my god." Jeff, you're like crazy and like super insane, and I so love it. So here we are. So like obsessively, it was bad. Like I was just, it was so bad how I was, and I was like, I'm grateful my children are like how I was with my mom because I was like, Mom, I am so
Yeah.
sorry. You got it like from all angles with me with different things. I used to have like people I had crushes on, and I'm just like, so we're gonna just watch everything, and I need to own everything they ever did. And like, it's so crazy. So that is pretty dope. Would you say who was your favorite wrestlers growing up? Like how like
Oh
for me it was like
man.
Jeff Hardy and like I appreciated a whole bunch of ones for different reasons. But who were like some of your favorite wrestlers that like got you like mad hype to watch them on TV?
I remember being like Jeff Hardy for Halloween one year when I was like in like the first grade or something like that. Like I would say like Jeff Hardy probably is the biggest influence in and not just like wrestling, but also like wrestlers themselves. Without people like Jeff Hardy, without people like Chris Jericho, you wouldn't see the
Uh-huh.
style you're seeing right now on television. So I would definitely say Jeff Hardy. I'm a really big Rey Mysterio fan. I'm
Yeah.
very old school, so I would say like Dean Malenko, uh, Lance Storm, uh, people like from that old ECW era too. Like I said, like I was in love with Spike Dudley just because of the fascination of him being thrown off of the highest of heights in ECW. He was like a rag doll. So Spike Dudley, Jeff Hardy, Chris Jericho, probably the top three.
Nice. I actually was very like I love Rey Mysterio. I think Rey Mysterio is like definitely like a legend.
Oh
And
yeah.
I feel like Dominic is doing so well. Like his match with Murphy on Monday was like really amazeballs, and I was like, "Yo, you like, like you." Obviously, he still has to like tune things, because he just started. But I was like, "You can move very
Hmm.
well in the ring, and you have a great teacher." And then, like Spike definitely doesn't get the credit he deserves sometimes for some of the stuff he had to endure in wrestling back then. Because he used to do all types of stuff. I'm like, "Oh my god, like you guys are not like hurt." Oh my god. I like I would know things or like storylines to still be like super stressed out. Like, okay, guys, like, can we like make sure people don't die, please? Like, like Jeff still stresses me out to this day. Like, he
Yeah,
makes me very
especially Rey
stressed, and I'm like,
Mysterio's son, out of all people. Like having
yes, oh man,
Rey
listen.
Mysterio's son. Like, imagine if he gets hurt. Like, that's not the person you want to get hurt on your first day of the job. Like, that's Rey Mysterio's son. You gotta take care of those.
Yeah, that's literally how like when he got the first time they did the kendo sticks with him, and he took those, and I'm like, oh, ouch! But like you're taking them, but also can we not do that stuff? Like he took them, so I respected it, but then it was also like he looked legit hurt, and I was like, you guys, can we not do this right now? Like, can you wait a little
Oh
bit?
yeah,
But
it's real for sure. I saw photos on social media.
yeah, his back looked
Yeah.
so like so messed up, and I was like, you guys, like I get it was like kind of like an initiation to a bet, and I understood it, but I was also very sad because I was just like, he looked so hurt, but he took it so well. Like I couldn't do that. So, so what got you into doing like film stuff? Like, I always tell people like I'm a writer normally, so I write fiction as well, and I always tell people Jeff Hardy is honestly the reason I started writing for the public view. Like I used to write like fan fiction about Jeff Hardy, and I put it on like this online forum so people would read it. And I always tell him like if I didn't get that to do that, I probably wouldn't be writing now where I have people reading my stuff, and like, you know, you put your stuff out there and then you hopefully people like it, or they might not. It's, that's very fair. If they don't like it, it's fine. But it was because of me worrying, like loving him so much that I was like, you know what, let me start writing. I'm actually pretty good at this. So what was it like? What got you? Was it wrestling that got you to wanting to do film stuff, or was it something else that got you into like film work?
That's a good question. When I started doing media, it wasn't actually for wrestling. It was actually for YouTube. I was a streamer at the time. There was a thing called machinima, for
Uh-huh.
any old school gamers that are aware of that era of YouTube. Yeah, so it was machinima, and it was like a thing where people would create content, mainly editing towards like gaming. So I'm a big gamer right now, and I was always like into the asset of how can I put a video together, but also how could I do something different. I always wanted to think different. I grew up watching movies like Pulp Fiction, Dust to Dawn. Like I'm really big on cinematography and the grindhouse feels of
Uh-huh.
people like Tarantino, people like Robert Rodriguez, people of those likes. But I was also into the storytelling aspect of like Edgar Allan Poe at a very young age. So when gaming kind of fizzled off, and I grew up, I went to college and all of that. I studied. I'm still studying cinematography and filmmaking, and I was wondering how can I implement this on something that I really love. So I gave it a shot at House of Glory. I want to say 6 years ago, and that's when things I think really just became very vivid that I want to continue doing cinematography and vignette work for professional wrestling. I found a passion for the storytelling, but also I met a lot of really amazing and talented people along the way from it.
Hmm.
And I don't think I could replace that at all for anything. When I did the gaming thing for a while, I used to stream like Call of Duty. I used to stream like Skate. I used to stream like I don't know, Happy Wheels or something. I don't know, but it was something that I felt like I could probably implement in another art form, and wrestling was just that niche, that niche people say that thing. It's like you put buffalo sauce on a wing; it just goes together well. So that wrestling was my buffalo wing basically, and I got into it 6 years ago at House of Glory, after going to my first independent show that they had in Amazura, which is located in Jamaica, Queens, and I was fascinated by like the production aspect and how different it was. And at the time, nobody was really doing that, and I wanted to help out with their YouTube. Being a YouTuber, I thought I saw their YouTube channel, and I was like, they could probably use some help, you
Hmm.
know. And I also would like the way, and so they were very open armed to me when I was telling them about not only my vision presentation for pro wrestling, but also how I could tell stories with some of their students or some of the talent they bring in. Want to do media with them, or I'll go to their dojo every week, and I'll be there every week filming their training sessions to show them afterwards and their training matches. So when I did that, it started becoming more. I started becoming more comfortable being on that side of the wrestling business. And it wasn't until I left, I want to say like 4 years after, I did GCW vignettes, and I guess people started talking. I was like, hey, maybe I could probably like do this for a living. And then I saw like people gravitating towards visual aspects of wrestling, and I should also mention, like, I was always into the WWE early 2000s vignettes where they play like the biscuit in the background. Be like a Jeff
Uh-huh.
Hardy vignette, or like it would be like Chris Benoit, or it would be like Eddie Guerrero or something like that. And it was like a movie, you know. So I love taking something in real life and forming it into this little like screenplay. Like you said, you like you're writing as well, and I'm in the same. I'm on the same boat. Like I love the aspect of showing people that it's possible to make something out of nothing, and surrounding yourself around talented people. So that was probably the main reason why I did that. Just because of like the creative flow of it is just untouchable.
That's a great answer. I that was actually my very first indie show as well, was the House of Glory. Um like I knew obviously of WWE, and then there was WCW, and then it was ECW, and then of course, Ring of
Mm-hmm.
Honor and Impact, but I've never really done indie shows until the first time I went to House of Glory, and my friend took me, and then she was like, you gotta like see this, and then you'll tell me
Mm-hmm.
afterwards what you think. So I went, and I was like, okay, this is actually one. I didn't even know the place existed this close to my house. Like I actually live about 20 minutes away from House of Glory, so I didn't even realize this
Nice.
place even existed this close to me. So I'm like, this place been here this whole time, and I had no idea this existed. So, and then I think what confirmed it was also, I think one time Jeff Hardy was there, and he's like, thank you, Jamaica Queen. So I was like, wait, bro, you was here? And like, you was this close to me, and I didn't know I couldn't like meet you. This is before I got to like meet him in person. So I was like, all right, let me see what House of Glory is going to be doing. And then was the first time I got to see LAX, or now they're Proud and Powerful. And I was like, oh my God, these guys are like super dope. And then the Lucha Bros was like so amazing. And I'm like, okay, so this is like really nice. And I like the atmosphere there. It was just like really like intimate, you know, feeling. And I appreciated
Mm-hmm.
that. So I definitely understand, like in regards to House of Glory, I feel like that's like a lot of people can like relate with regards to like indie wrestling. Their shows were really well done. And I was like, you can tell sometimes like when the show's just kind of starting out and you hope that they put on a good show, but then it's like you can tell these guys at least trying to put enough effort into the show, and like the wrestlers care enough that you'll be entertained, even if they're like a heel and you might like dislike that person because they're heel. You're still like, okay, but you're doing a good job of convincing me not to like you at this moment. So pretty dope. I like that answer. So would you say like, is it a lot? Because I know you have your violence and suffering, which I thought was I really like the whole like concept of that. Like I think it's like the whole like the way you have it like even localized is pretty cool. So how did that come about when you was like, you know what, let me kind of do this on my own?
I wanted to clarify. Like I also like I never wanted to be like a wrestling promoter. I always wanted to just like see where my videography work would go. But
Uh-huh.
it was actually the opportunity was just given to me at last December, because it was previously ran at Ridgefield, New Jersey, and
Mhm.
it was ran by different people, and just like they didn't want to do it anymore basically, and the sponsor of the show wanted to keep going, and I had a vision, and I also believe that violence and suffering is one of the most underrated private. Matt Travis was one of my best friends at House of Glory, and
Mhm.
I was with him till the end. And doing his thing at when he was doing his thing at VXS, I was absolutely outstanding, and I was like, why aren't people seeing that? So it not only hit home, but it also became like, man, what if like the platform was given to a lot of people that deserve it and never got the chance to? So that's how I see it, and I want to carry that legacy on just giving back to the people of the Northeast, like not just quality wrestling, but that effort you saw in House of Glory, that effort people are seeing at GCW. There's a big void to fill with a lot of people not only touring but also before pandemic.
Mhm.
Everyone was. I personally believe everyone was doing the same thing. So when I got the opportunity to do Violence and Suffering, I wanted to offer a platform where people believe it's a party, basically. And doing that, there comes like a lot of hate with the fast uprise of it, and we had to experience a lot of difficulties along the way. But it just goes to show, with a lot of hard work and a lot of effort, there's endless possibilities of what you could create, and you just don't give up. It's like a real underdog story when you think about it, but it's something that I want to I want people to understand that it's not just for a local talent, but I also want it to showcase the diversity of professional wrestling and showcase people from Mexico, people from Puerto Rico, people
Mhm.
even from California, like finding talent that people probably haven't seen before, like what people have said when Matt Travis was in action over there. People haven't seen something like that at the time, and uh, with no justice, no peace. Obviously, there was a lot of difficulties we had to go under, and it wasn't originally the plan to run with no ropes. But I do think that everything happens for a reason, and I'm very proud of not only the show but everyone involved in the show, because that just shows how much people believed in the vision of violence and suffering.
Yeah, as I was telling you before we started recording, I actually was able to see it, and I actually really appreciated what was done. Like I try to watch most wrestling just because I'm a wrestling fan as a whole, but
Yeah.
it was pretty really well done, especially because I like literally just happened to see it on Facebook, and I was just like, oh, okay, like if I can like watch something that's like supporting wrestlers who are not like world known, like you expect people to kind of know somebody from WWE or from AEW, and you have like indie wrestlers that we will know it's like super amazing, but like other people might not know. So that was like really cool to see that even like with whatever was happening that could have turned it totally differently than that when it happened or what the outcome was. It was still really really well done, and I was like telling a friend of mine, I was like, okay, you just have to like watch this because this is pretty like dope. And then especially since everything has been like kind of on pause and like quarantine has changed so much of how we even have anything right now, at least I thought it was like done pretty, done well in the not only whatever was happening behind the scenes, but with the way the world is right now. It's just like, well, what exactly are we like? When is everything going to get to a point where it will seem like a normal wrestling show? At least like the last one I went to was like March, and I was like, if I knew that was be my last wrestling show for a while, I probably would have like been there a little longer. I was like ready to go home. I was tired, but and the show was a great show. It was just like I was like, oh, I'll come back to another show next week. I'm thinking, I have next week. It's fine. And then that's when quarantine happened. I was like, oh, okay, well, you just kind of messed those plans up 2020. So it was like it's always nice when I get to see, the indie wrestlers like doing more stuff. So very, very appreciative that, um you did that show. And I know you have one in October, I believe. So what is your goal for violence and suffering? Like outside of, you know, I know you said you wanted people to see the other talent, but what is like there's always, I feel like people have goals for what they want, their company, their brand, their promotion. What is your ultimate goal with violence and suffering?
That's a good question. Well, first off, thank you so much for watching the show and saying that. Like, I love hearing people's thoughts, good or bad, about the show, and the support has just been very overwhelming with that. I'm trying to make a goal right now to focus on rounds and suffering, not just to run a show, but like I said, something different. My goal right now, um, I dream wise, I would love to take back the scene that's in Philly. There's nothing right now happening in Philly, and there's a big void to fill with the fan base. The fan base feels like they're left out, and there's nothing going on there. Even pre-pandemic, nobody was really doing anything. So like the first show to run there, that was that show. That's pretty special in my heart. So I think I would love to go back to Philly, but business wise, I want to create basically the X Games of professional wrestling. I want to implement the culture of skateboarding with pro wrestling and the culture of hip hop and trap music with professional wrestling, done correctly and not in a corny way. Very organic and very natural. Because without that, then uh, there's just wrestling, and that's what everyone else is doing. So with the fan
Yeah.
base that we have right now, I think that we're aiming at the right direction. My goal right now, if things are like safe, because that's like the number one priority right now, I would love to run again in Philly. With October right now is the October right now is the actual test. You know, we will have ropes on October 4th, which a lot of fans have been asking about on Twitter that I haven't spoken openly about, but we will have ropes. And October is just going to be what the original plan was, and that's just to make it a party and make it done right. Um, right now, I want to also just say that I want to thank everybody involved. I want to thank Chris Barton, who showed up at the last show. I want to thank Myron Reed, Jordan Alder. Those are all like the guys right now that I want to build a core roster with continuous people, and not just have like a random random local talent, you know. So
Mhm.
I really want to envision a not just top tier, but also like just quality, like top, like something that's like people say top shelf wrestling, but like I believe that it's something that's good for the fans. And like at the end of the day, I could admit that I am a fan of wrestling, and the wrestlers are a fan of wrestling. And if you don't want to admit that, then you're not really taking it seriously, because like I'm all about everyone being themselves. And if you're saying you're not a fan of wrestling, you're in the business, then that's just like that's just lying to yourself, you know. So um,
Mhm.
I don't know. By the end of the year, I would love to go to like places like California and tour. I want to expand. I want this to be a brand, you know.
Yeah, I definitely like see like that, like wanting it to be like when it's mentioned, it's like, oh, it's that place, it's that company that does these things. So, like what the things that you would be known for. It's like, oh, this person put on these type of shows and it's
Yeah.
gonna be a great show. It's like, you know, that automatic like, oh, this person put on amazing shows. This is something you need to watch. So I definitely agree with you on that. I also know you were doing where proceeds were going to ratio and justice, which I thought was like super awesome too. I was like, you was just hitting all the right buttons for me. So I was like, oh, this is like for like a good cause as well. Like, how can you not like want to support something where like not only are we getting wrestling, but then you're also trying to put some like spotlight on things that's happening uh right now, which I thought was like really awesome that you did. I don't really see that happening too often, where like you might have where there's obviously there's things for causes, because I think my last show was for, I think some kind of, I'm trying to remember what the cancer was, because it felt like March was so long from September the way this year has been going. But I was just really appreciative that also was like about racial injustice. And I was like, that's such a big thing with me. So that the fact that you hit that button too, and I was just like, oh, this is even more awesome that this is what's happening as well. Like we got some wrestling, here's a social justice cause that I like. And just very appreciative. Like I said, it's not often when I could like I tell people I'm very very usually hard to please when it comes to certain things. Like I'm like, okay, what are you so different that makes me like, okay, I'll watch you again. So I think that's what it was for me. Just like I'm like, this is pretty cool. And some of the wrestlers I did recognize from watching them at other shows, but it was also again like the whole like he was also trying to like the whole racial injustice thing, and I thought it was pretty cool. I appreciate anybody who's willing to like even if they're putting their brand on the line for it to say, well, this is what this is, and we represent. You know what I mean? We represent this, so we feel this way and not so much worry too much about like, oh, but what if somebody doesn't agree? And I don't mean something like an opinion like, oh, I don't like this movie or something, like something that's like important. So I think that's pretty cool that you have like that mindset already to just this is what you want to do with it and what you want to bring differently to the world of wrestling, you know? Would you
No,
say
absolutely.
it?
Coming from
Hmm?
yeah, yeah. No, it's okay. You can.
Oh no, you can finish. You have the floor.
I was just saying that it's something close to heart coming from a family of color and experiencing that front hand of being racially profiled. It hit home, and especially with the whole movement right now, with Black Lives Matter and
Mhm.
the whole protesting thing, that the movement that everyone's involved in. I just think that it was fitting because that's not just a moniker to sell tickets. We
Yeah.
didn't even do that with tickets. I'm very grateful for Fight helping us out. Fight helping us with the proceeds going to the Equal Justice Initiative, and Fight giving us the thumbs up basically with the plan of being not just giving us the thumbs up, but very into the concept that we have, because it's something I think a lot of people aren't very transparent with, but also aren't taking enough action, which I feel like every
Yeah.
promotion is. But like you said, people are scared about connecting their brand and connecting their image with something so powerful like that. And if I had the opportunity and if I was graced with the blessing to host an event like that, then I don't think I would take it for the slightest to not do that. Like I don't see anyone not doing that. So yeah, it was a power move that not only it was my idea, but it was also everyone in the back. Like I got a lot of wrestlers of color that were all in for that idea, and I wanted everyone to be comfortable with that, and everyone was all in for that. But it hits home, coming from a family of color doing professional wrestling. It's something that more people need to do, and it's something not only more people need to do, but also be aware of. I feel like people follow a trend. Basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
People want to follow a trend, but not back it up. So I don't just want to talk the talk. I want to walk the walk with the ass. I want people to be as transparent in the company as possible, but not only that, but myself as well in the company and the company itself. So the image and the, the imagery of the company revolves around freedom of speech, but also that what's right, just like what's wrong and what needs to be heard, and it's the voice of the voiceless. I don't mean to steal CM Punk's moniker or anything, but it definitely is that, and a lot of
Mhm.
people that watch the show understand that. I'm very grateful for that.
That's awesome. Would you say this is a lot harder to do than it is when you was doing just like the film aspect of wrestling before? Do you feel like it's a lot more work? Do you feel like it's about the same? And like, what are like the major differences for you between like kind of running a promotion and then just doing the film work? Because I've seen like some of the promotions for the matches, and they're like really cool. Like I like things that look visually appealing. So if I'm like, oh, this is a really dope like little package to like promote this match. So would you say like that's harder to do with regards to just when you was doing the film stuff, or is it about the same?
It's absolutely harder than just being booked to film a music highlight reel or a vignette. You it being a promoter, you have to handle all aspects from not just the fans' point of view, but the wrestler's point of view. They're traveling. You're
Mhm.
very hands-on when you're a promoter, and it's something that is behind the scenes. Not a lot of people look into or talk about, but you're more hands-on when you're put in that position. You're the pilot that has to you have to present the I was just saying that it's 1,000% harder, but you have to have a certain type of love, dedication, and vision for this because
Uh-huh.
there's a lot of that are throwing events that you could see the effort's not really there. The captain, you gotta have your hands on deck, and you have to have all types of ideas, not just for graphics, not just for video presentation, but for
Mhm.
the show and everything behind it. And it could be frustrating. Like I'm a one-man band right now. I may have sponsors, but I'm the one putting together the transportation, contacting people, setting together, organizing tickets for the fans, doing the graphics. You know, it's a lot to deal with. So um, yeah, that's basically it. It's 1,000 times % harder than being that you're more hands on for sure.
Okay. So, what as a wrestling fan, what something you said you would think should change in the aspect of wrestling? Like, there's a lot of people have a lot of opinions that wrestling could be different than it was, let's say, Attitude Era. Since that's like a known era, or like, oh, we have so many options now, and yet sometimes people still seem very like upset or very disappointed still. So, what would you say from like a like a wrestling fan standpoint, and then as a promoter, what would you say is missing from wrestling, or things that probably could be changed or adjusted a bit in wrestling?
Wise, I believe that there's a lack of storytelling. I believe that there's a lack of presentation that is top tier. I believe that there is and base that wants that type of aggressive vibe that to replicate, but doesn't really think about innovating. You know, I want
Hmm.
to create a vibe where it's something special and something I haven't said in any interview. I used to actually throw trap parties when I was like shit, I don't know, dude. I was like very young, like in these are like high school days. I used to throw parties, so being in that position, kind of like was the backbone of what VXS is, and I kind of used that experience into the field of doing this. But I just think that it's all it's all it, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like a taste of a nice meatball marinara. You know what I'm saying? You gotta cook it.
Hmm.
You gotta cook with love. You know, you make a
Yeah.
nice chicken parm, you gotta make that with love. You know, wrestling's not made with love right now. A lot of people are very greedy. A lot of promoters are very old that are very out of touch. And I just want to be the promotion right now that everyone talks about that says, man, this was a party and this was something that's very different to offer. If there was something I would
Hmm.
say to other people to do for wrestling promotions, I would say just don't just presentation. Presentation is key. I think that a lot of people that are blessed to run events don't look into that aspect, don't look into the detail of
Hmm.
presentation. And with doing the not just the party, but also doing the streaming on Twitch and YouTube for Machinima, a bunch of stuff like that has helped me tremendously with being that one man army for presentation because without like let's say doing a custom thumbnail like in your end you're very familiar with what it takes to put something custom together, you know. So
Yeah.
I think presentation is something that lacks right now in a lot of places in the independent scene. And but if it wasn't for the independent scene, if it was for like something televised, definitely something that I would add is like aggressiveness and something that's not very I don't want to say the word fake, but definitely something that doesn't seem to push forward to the fan. I believe that a lot of stuff on television right now is pushed too forward and isn't very organic or
Hmm.
isn't very like gravitating towards what the fan wants to see. always listen to your fan base. A lot of people believe in their own vision before that, and I think you could be in the middle while satisfying the fan.
Yeah. Okay. I like the answer. I do. I was just saying this. I think earlier on Twitter, I was trying to explain. Like I know people have the thoughts about Vincent Man, and that man is far from perfect at all. But it was like
Oh yeah,
I feel like sometimes people complain just to complain, and I'm like, you have to understand that they have to give fans that, but they also have to kind of keep a bit of themselves there too. So, like, if you complain every week, they cannot change every week because now you're upset about something. It's like no promotion would ever work well in general if they switch every time somebody complained about something. Like you guys, it's like sometimes I feel like fans are a little too fickle, so they're never happy about certain things. And I'm just like, if you begged for something and the person did it, be happy for a bit. It shouldn't be like a week later, like now you're sad and now let's complain, because it's like, okay, but the person listened. So try to be somewhat gracious, I guess, to that. So I definitely do agree with regards to saying, even with the storytelling, I feel like that's one of the best parts of wrestling is storytelling. And I'm a sucker for those type of things. As like a writer, I want to see like, okay, this makes sense to me. This is, it works well. This feud makes sense. I feel like that's why Randy Orton for me right now is doing some of his best work he's done in years because of everything he's been doing storytelling wise for me.
yeah.
Um, and I'm just like, I hated Randy Orton growing up when I was a kid, but as an adult, I'm like, yeah, I totally get it now. And he's one of the few who can like still do it well, where you're like, you kind of want to hate him, but then you totally understand what he's saying. So it's like that. Give me that too. Like, I want to see an amazing match, but I also like will make me care enough about the match that I now want to really see you guys like wrestle. I can't wait for you guys to wrestle. I'm like fiending to see you guys on my screen because you guys told the story so well. Like at least how it was in the Attitude Era, where you kind of was like waiting for the next part of the wrestling show for like the next week because like they set it in a spot like you're like, oh my god, what's gonna happen next, type of thing. So I definitely agree with what you were saying about that. Would you say you have like a favorite wrestling promotion right now?
Independent or televised?
Either or both.
Um, I love what AEW is doing. Don't get
Hmm.
me wrong. WWE, they're the Disney of wrestling, and they're not going to be touchable for a very long time. But AEW is trying their absolute best right now. But if it was independent wise, I mean there's so many. I watch so much wrestling. I want to say like people at freelance wrestling are very good. I'm a fan of people at AAW in Chicago. There's the Chicago scene. The people in Seattle with Defy is probably my favorite independent scene right now. Defy is very cinematic with their visuals, and they care about the detail. And I don't not see them getting contract from like Showtime or some televised event because of how crispy they are. So I definitely I probably my favorite promotion I'll say is probably like Defy Wrestling in Seattle right now.
Nice, nice. Would you say there's like a wrestler or dream wrestler for you to have at one of your shows? Like this person I would love to have. What wrestler would it be like a dream for you to have on as part of your promotion for an event?
I know that they have their contract obligations, but my it's very corny, but my guy's private party, like they're day ones. I was there when they debuted. We started around the same time at House of Glory a couple years ago. So
Mhm.
I want to say private party is probably the dream talent to get for VXS right now. I think it goes as well, like I said, with that party vibe that I'm trying to go for. I think they would implement a great tag team, a staple of the tag team division of VXS. I think that tag team wrestling is lacking right now, and they could definitely help out a lot of guys in the scene right now. And I also believe like they can do stuff that they can't do on television. So, private party. If it was singles, I would probably say maybe Jeff Cobb. Maybe Jeff Cobb right now. I don't know if he's signed yet or
Mm.
not. But I'm very thankful for Tony Khan helping out with Brian Cage. Tony Khan helped out with the transportation and flights. He was very very, very motivated and full on with the idea of what VXS is, and I don't think a lot of promotions can say that because of the what's happening with the world right now with the pandemic. But I'm very thankful for our roster right now. I wouldn't change it for the world. I'm very satisfied. You know, I'm not a picky guy. But
Mhm.
number one pick for sure would be Private Party.
Okay. I love them too. I got to talk to them very briefly. I think their last match at HOG before they went to AEW. Very, very like dope guys. And they're also like really like funny, especially Isaiah. He always
Oh
cracks me
yeah,
up. So
Sockman Isaiah. That's what I call him.
he's like always cracks me up, and I'm just like just so funny and like lighthearted, you know. And then they're really good in the ring too, which is always like my thing. Is like, what is it? And not only is your gimmick good, but like if you can also have a good wrestler and then you've got a good gimmick that I can remember, that's like always like pluses for me. That I'm like, let me tell this person about this wrestler. Let me tell this person about this. Let me like tell people how good you guys are. So is there any, because again, I wanted to try to not keep you too long, but is there anything you wanted to like promote or talk before we like end the interview to let the listeners know to check out for?
Well, like I said before we started recording, thank you so much for having me. I believe that you're media, and I believe that you're something that people underlook when it comes to the aspect of podcasting. I tell all of my talents that they should I absolutely encourage them to do podcasting. And I started out with this. You know, my first ever interview years ago was with Isaiah and Sockman Isaiah and Isaiah Ghazi. And I think that without this platform, it doesn't give people to voice out what's next. So when it comes to VXS, I do want to implement the fact that we are going to do something people aren't usually used to seeing, and that's heavy on the talent we're going to use. I really want to do the I want to be like a Mortal Kombat type of vibe where it's like you could select anyone from any company. Like you could at VXS, you could see an AEW guy versus someone from MLW, or you could see an AEW guy against someone from Impact Wrestling. I want to be that vice versa, that type
Mhm.
of unity in pro wrestling, but also uh, do something right for the fans and something that they want to see. Because that without the fans, there is no show. October 4th, I have a show in Williamstown, New Jersey. That's our next show. We will have ropes and everything is all set. It's going to be outdoors. We're limiting and social distancing fans. It's very limited right now. I don't know if anyone interested, if anyone listening is interested, they can visit us on social media at VXS Wrestling. Um, when is this? Do you know when this is going to air? This podcast, this interview?
Probably in October since I usually schedule them a certain way. So probably like the
Okay.
first week of
Do
October.
you want to exclude? I'll give you the first match announcement here just for you, if you want.
Oh,
I don't
thank
know
you.
if you're comfortable with that.
Yes.
We're going to be doing Brian Cage from AEW versus ECW's Blake Christian, and it's going to be a styles clash that is must see. I think Blake Christian is going to get a contract very soon, and I also believe that Brian Cage is going to be a VXS regular. So I'm very excited to have him on October 4th.
Nice. That's so dope.
And that's just one of them. I want everyone to understand, like every match is gonna be stacked. Like this is going. I hate gassing myself up, but like this is going to be like very different from what everyone's used to seeing in the scene right now. And I would love to run in like a Brooklyn Bronx like area because of how things are right now. That's obviously impossible, but like when the time comes, I would love to just travel and give everybody that opportunity of partying at VXS. So October 4th is definitely the true test in things going right and done right. And it's going to be live on Fight. So if anyone is interested, it's just $12. You could go on Fight and you could pre-order when the link is revealed on our Twitter. Again, it's at VXS Wrestling. And yeah, I'm just very thankful for you to even like consider me as an interview. Like I after the show, like I've had a lot, but I'm not really accepting much. This is like the first one I'm doing. So thank you so much for having me, and thank you for giving not just me, but the wrestlers outlet for voicing their opinions.
Well, thank you for like joining me. Like I know you sent me a message, I think after one of my episodes, and I was like, "Oh, that's so sweet." Like I always like I know you told me to like look at it as like this is your thing, but it's always like I'm always so funny about uh talking to people. I'm a background kind of person, so I would do stuff in the background nobody would even know I exist type thing. So
Oh, me too.
me doing so when
Absolutely.
I
I'm very
started
introverted
doing
too. This is
yeah
very rare.
that's yeah, it's like so I've been like getting out of that habit of like being in the background, and I started doing the other shows a part of an unpopular review, and I was like on camera, and I'm like, wait, we do camera stuff, like I'm on camera and I don't like being on camera, and I hate the sound of my voice, even though I do another podcast, but it's like a book podcast. So I'm like with the wrestling, it's like
Beautiful.
I love wrestling. So it's like, why not if I can talk to wrestlers and if I can just have them like just chat, or tell me how they feel about things or just like laugh or whatever. Like I just did an interview with Matt Awesome, and he had me laughing most of that interview because he was just like saying really like nice, like I understood the family aspect he was talking about, and I was like, I get that part. And he was talking about the chancleta, and I was laughing about that, and I was like, yeah, that's like super funny, like that kind of stuff, and I just like vibing. So anytime anybody ever says like yes to an interview, I'm just like, thank you so much for even like trusting me to interview you. So I'm very grateful that you even wanted to be on this. um to the listeners, I will have all the links in the description when the video drops. I definitely think you should be supporting. I enjoyed the very first show I was able to see, and October 4th is the next show. So if you cannot be there personally, definitely, support where you can watch it online in some capacity. But I'm like really appreciative of what you're doing, Isaac, for the wrestling community. I think that's like a really dope thing, and wrestling seems like it's a big thing, but it's actually quite small. It seems sometimes like how small the community is. So very grateful for anybody who just wants to do anything that'll showcase how dope wrestling can be, and it's not like less than any other sport as it's sometimes looked down on as if it's lesser than. And I disagree, because wrestlers still have to put their bodies on the line, they still have to train, they still have to work out, they still have to travel and all the other stuff. So thank you so much for everything that you are doing with wrestling.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I gotta say, I think the thing that separates VXS from everyone else is that the I do see both sides of not just the wrestler's point of view and the show's point of view by itself, but also the fan aspect. You're not going to see a more hands-on promotion than this, and something that accepts everyone. So if you're ever at or anywhere near a local or upcoming VXS event, you're more than welcome back. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Definitely will take you up on that offer. So again, I will have all the links, social media, all the links in the comment section. You guys give a like, follow, share, all of those type of things. I believe they have a YouTube as well. So definitely subscribe. And again, Isaac, thank you so much for joining me. This has been a really fun interview, a very informative interview. And I will
Awesome.
catch you guys. I will catch you guys later. Bye guys.